In this video, I'll give you a lesson on how to play the drum rudiment, the 10-stroke roll, and the 11-stroke roll. 10 and 11-stroke rolls are structurally very similar and nice to learn together. You'll need decent mastery before moving on to the English Reveille. Make sure you have your drumsticks and drum or drum head set up. In this lesson, I'll play to demonstrate and then give you time to play along to music or audio. Note, I would recommend feeling confident with your rolls before this lesson. If you need more practice, check out my videos, 7-stroke rolls, lesson 7, 17-stroke rolls, lesson 11, 5-stroke rolls, lesson 14. Like our other rolls, an 11-stroke roll literally means 11 strokes, 2 on each hand, alternating until they're close to a roll. In the British style, 11-stroke rolls always begin on the left hand and end on the right. To start, we'll focus just on our hand exchanges. To play an 11, we need to make 6 hand exchanges, starting on the left and ending on the right. So we'll play a multiple stroke or multiple bounce on the left, second on the right, 3, 4, 5, and then the final 6th stroke is just a hard right stroke. So all together, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Try practicing a few of those, starting nice and slow. Make sure you're getting the correct number of hand exchanges, starting again always on your left. And then as you get a little more comfortable, try to increase the speed until you're playing a couple of your best speed. So now that you've got the hand exchanges and a little bit of speed under your belt, we're going to try focusing on the timing. As you can see from the music, the main note of an 11 is a quarter note. Since quarter notes have one beat, what this means is that we'll start this roll on the beat or on a click, and we'll continue that roll through the entirety of the beat, and we'll end on the next beat. So if you were marching, typically you start an 11 when you take a left step, and you end when you take a right step. We'll try an exercise where you'll play along with me, as well as a metronome. We'll play one 11-stroke, and then allow 2 beats of rest to sort of reset, and then we'll continue playing. Take a moment to consider how well you were playing along to the rolls. If you had a tendency to start after me, that just means you need to get a little more confident with your timing. Spend a little time listening to the metronome, and think about raising your hands just a little prior to that beat, so that when you're throwing your hands down at the drum head, you're hitting right on step 1. If you're ending mostly after me, that means that your rolls aren't tight enough. This particular roll is a very tight roll, and so it really takes having good, clean, fast hand exchanges. First thing you want to do is go back to just focusing on those hand exchanges, try to make sure that as one hand is finishing its bounce, the next hand is already starting its bounce, and try to progressively get faster. If you're still having trouble after working on that for a little while, you may need to go back to the basics and actually just practice your multiple strokes a little bit more. You may not have enough control to get them faster. Let's try that exercise again. This time, either focus on trying to lift your hands up with the beat so that you're coming down on beat 1 and you're not kind of over anticipating finding the metronome, or work on trying to tighten up and contract that roll a little bit more to end on the beat. So as I just mentioned, the 11-stroke roll is a very tight roll, and that's because of its quintuplet structure. Quintuplet is just a fancy way of saying 5 quick, even strokes. So what we're really doing is in that first 5 strokes, we're playing those nice and quick, all within one step. That final right stroke that makes the 6th stroke happens on the next beat. So that's why altogether, when we play just the skeleton of an 11, it sounds like this. So what we're going to do next to work on that rhythm is play a skeleton plus roll exercise. So we'll play 2 skeletons, so 2 of those quintuplets into 2 rolls. So the whole exercise sounds like this. We'll just keep repeating that a little bit. The idea here is to really focus on that tight quintuplet structure when you're just playing the singles, so that you can get an idea of how fast your hands have to make those hand exchanges. Then when you move into the roll, try to keep up that same momentum so that you're keeping your roll nice and tight. The next thing we want to look at is how to modify the 11-stroke roll into a 10-stroke roll. So even stroke rolls are a little bit different because instead of ending with 1 clean stroke, they end with 2 single strokes. There's really no difference between a 10-stroke roll and an 11-stroke roll, except for what your last left-hand stroke looks like. So we're going to try that same exercise we just did, the skeletons plus the roll. This time we're going to do it as a 10-stroke roll skeleton. So a skeleton's still going to look exactly the same. You're still going to play that quintuplet. Except on this quintuplet, what we want to do is those last 2 strokes we want to accent. This is going to help us to remember where the rolls or where the bounces versus where those final strokes should go. So just to slow it down a little bit, we're going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, hard 5, hard left. So you see how those last 2 strokes will both come in slight accents. So same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hard left stroke, hard right stroke. So after we play those skeletons, we're going to apply the roll. But now you can use that hand movement to help you kind of stop the roll a little early and play those final 2 strokes. So the whole exercise sounds like this. Try playing this exercise by yourself first. That way you can get an idea where those hard strokes are supposed to go in. Start by playing it a little bit slower, making sure that you're executing a nice, clean left hand, and then try to get it a little bit faster until you're playing up to speed. So now that you have an idea of what the 10-stroke roll should sound like, we'll go ahead and play the skeleton roll exercise together. This is what a 10 and 11 stroke roll look like in written music. We can identify that both are rolls by the dashes on the stem, the tie connecting the 2 notes, and the number over them. As you learned in the lesson, both of these rolls begin on the beat and end on the next beat. We know that's how they're played because they begin with a quarter note at the beginning of the measure and tie to the next note of the measure. In the lesson, you learned that the only difference between a 10 and 11 stroke roll is how they end. Here we can see that the 11 stroke roll is a regular note tied to another regular note. The 10 stroke roll instead can be written a few ways, but all of these ways indicate that there is a double stroke at the end. One common option is to show the 10 stroke roll ending as a flam, imitating the kind of open flam ending that the double stroke creates. Another option is to show 3 notes, where the first note with the dashes indicating a roll ties to the first hard stroke, which then ties to the second hard stroke. Make sure you can comfortably play along to the recording all the way through before moving on. Once you've got this beating down, move on to the next lesson. If you want a recording of just the full beating, check out my video